Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak here on the broadcast. Dr. Kenneth Ombongi on my far right is the Associate Dean, Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Nairobi. Senior Counsel Okongo Omogeni is with us this morning. Senator Nyamira County, Professor Peter Kagwanja, the CEO of Africa Policy Institute, and Ahmed Hashi, commentator on diplomacy and foreign policy. Yes, Prof, your hand was up. No,
I was to add to the fact that dictators across the world, forget about East Africa, dictators across the world always use radicals and claim to oceans to tyrannize their own citizens and the neighbors. Now, when Hitler wanted to attack Germany, he claimed, to kill the Second World War. What did he claim? He claimed Poland. The Poland was part of Germany, and he went ahead to claim the Alsace-Lorraine,
and
part of
Sudetenland.
Yes, part of France. And that's it. The same thing. When Amin was here, when he wanted basically to tyrannize us, what did he do? He claimed part of our country using historical records. And if we get a serious dictator in Kenya, and God forbid that we get a dictator who is as mindless as other dictators are, the first thing we'll do is to claim Kilimanjaro. Because we know it was given over to Tanzania in a dinner between two cousins.
Yeah. The king,
the prince of Germany and the queen of England.
Yeah.
And the date and the hour when it was given, and the alcohol, the tea or whatever the porridge they were taking is known.
Yeah.
Or the uji.
The uji they were taking is known when they were on that. So let us not forget this particular point, that it is not the legitimacy of Museveni's claim. It is the indication of the trend he is taking in terms of tyrannizing the Ugandans and now seeking to tyrannize Kenya with the compressions of our foreign policy orthodoxy and the guardians of our sovereignty. They simply seems to kowtow to that whole idea. Now, Museveni had a point, and as intellectuals we should say
concede the point.
The point he had is that he can own a part of the Indian Ocean. But the way he's going about it is it's not Kenya or Tanzania. If we talk about the Indian Ocean, that is his right. The country with the largest territory, one of the largest territories in the Indian Ocean, is not an African country. It is France. But just owning Union and Mayotte and the Noctu Miles, and other islands within the Indian Ocean, France has the largest territory in the world, 11,000 million square kilometers. So it is very small in Europe. It has a very small coastline, but it now owns the ocean. And so when you're talking about the Indo-Pacific politics, we are really talking about, France as a more powerful actor in terms of the ocean territory it owns than even India or China, because China has a very small, oceanic territory and so on. So what is the point? Why can't Museveni consider buying an island in the Indian Ocean, and then that become an overseas territory of Uganda? Because that's what other Europeans, conquerors have done. The French conquered, then they have the Union, they have Mayotte and other islands. The Germans have theirs, they lost during the wars. The British have quite a number in West Indies and so on, the ones they have kept. So I think the only way he has is to accumulate some wealth of Uganda and go and buy a couple of islands in the Indian Ocean. Possibly negotiate with France. Maybe there's one or two islands which France might want to sell. And so on. Okay. So that's a route. That's a possible route. And this is what America did with Taiwan, with the Hawaii. Yes.
Let's understand Museveni. Museveni is not interested in those islands. The claim is making is the coastal, the Kenyan coastal line, the port. He says he wants to set his navy along the coast. And we need to be brutally honest to Museveni and tell him under international law. In law there is what we call international law of the sea.
Yes.
him wake up to the reality that Uganda is a landlocked country. Yes. And under international law, there are, there are obligations that belong to Kenya and the obligations that belong to Uganda. We cannot deny him, in terms of trade, access to the port of Mombasa under international law. We are, as a country, we have an obligation to allow Museveni to have access to the sea. But what he can't get is like wanting to annex Kenya and get like his direct territorial access to the coast. I mean, that would be a declaration of war. And let's also be good students of history. Countries have fought to control coastlines. You remember in the late 1800s, Chile fought with Bolivia. Yes. I mean, a very brutal war. Finally, they kicked Bolivia off the coastal line. Now, what did Bolivia do after that? They realized, under international law, the only way to survive is to seek and have a treaty with another friendly country. So it entered into a treaty with Peru so that it can have a port that can allow it do trade. Okay? Now, even you mentioned about countries that are landlocked. How is Ethiopia operating with Djibouti? They have a treaty that allows them to set up base in Djibouti and control a port there.
And also the railway connection.
And the railway connection. The speed rail, what Kenya is trying to do with Uganda, there is a precedent. It's happening between Ethiopia and Djibouti, but not through these reckless declarations. You do it through international treaty. You sit and negotiate so that you benefit. You can even do a lease. He doesn't need to go to the French. He can talk to us. We can, if we economically, we think that as a country we are going to benefit. We can even allow him to lease some portion of Mombasa or Lamu, whatever it is. That's what Zambia has done.
With Tanzania.
Yes.
Tanzania, yes.
Yeah. So really, in fact, they've even done it with even with Namibia. They have a dry port. So the options that Museveni has is to be diplomatic. If you make the kind of declaration he's making that you are comparing international boundaries with an apartment and saying you need, it's like you're in a penthouse, you need access. That's not the way. So we really, as a country, we must, the first obligation that the president has, the first obligation I have as a Kenyan, is to protect the territorial integrity of a country called Kenya. Any other thing, in fact, the only consideration for us is the economic benefits. If we want to give Museveni access to the port of Mombasa, we have to look at it from the economic angle. I mean, we need to trade with them. And finally, remember, this is so retrogressive. We are trying to build the East African community so that we encourage trade among the East African communities in a friendly manner. You go to Europe, you can buy something in France and you get your taxes refunded in Spain. You move freely. Once you have a visa to enter the European Union, you move freely. That's what we need in East Africa, not this kind of retrogressive statement from Museveni. Do you know that Kenyan lawyers have entered a pact with Ugandan lawyers, allowing them to cross over and practice law in Kenya? It's only that the Ugandans fear. They have not given the same reciprocity to Kenyan lawyers. And that is, if we are looking at building a strong economic base for the East African community, that is the debate we should be having. Not saying that you want to come and set a naval base in Mombasa. I'm telling you, whatever way you look at it, that is a declaration of war. If you want to tell Kenya that Uganda is coming to set up a naval base in Mombasa, that can provoke war between these two countries.
I like what senior counsel is saying, actually. The more we run away from history, the more history is interested in us. If you listen to the historical examples that he has given. But in Museveni's act, again, if you scratch it away from the service, you will get a pointer to a pattern in these legendary old men of East Africa over the years. he has had very interesting imperial designs of being, quote unquote, the president of the region. You know, if you listen to him, if you see the kind of influence that he exercises in Tanzania, especially now that the great lady of Tanzania is very vulnerable, you know, so I think what he said is a pointer to the interests that he has had over the years of being the most influential man in this region beyond the confines of what we earlier called the Pearl of Africa. If you see it within that, that interest, then all these ideas of him signing contracts and buying islands in the Indian Ocean and influencing the way the French have done does not make sense to him as far as I'm concerned. Okay. This can be seen within the broad designs of wanting to influence the direction of politics and foreign policy of the region. How far he will go with that, we will only wait and see.
Yes, Ahmed, your hand was up. And then
you know, every cause begins as a movement. Then it becomes a business. And then it degenerates into a racket. So what they're doing is using the great movement of the East African ideas, my learned friend was saying a minute ago, and they've turned it into a business, into this coast business, because that's what I think is happening. In my view, it's business that's being done there. Unlike Mr. Abiy, who has brought this whole idea about oceans to the eastern part of East Africa. Just because he has a problem with Eritrea, he has a problem inside their country, he has a problem across the region in the Ogaden area, and he wants to get internal legitimacy. And I think this whole thing is not about appeasing Mr. Museveni. Mr. Ruto is not the kind of character, and I know him well, our president, he's not the kind of guy who appeases people. He's a bit of a gung-ho. And this racket now that has developed into the pipeline, this business racket, I think that is where the stuff of the problem is. Secondly, I think that Mr. Museveni has now come to his fin de siècle. He has come to the end of his cycle. I don't think Mr. Museveni has any new ideas. I think that he cannot take the banner of East Africa because we know what he did in the DRC. He invaded that country. He's causing so much problems with minerals over there. We know that he betrayed Mr. Gaddafi, who's the one who armed him and sold him to the Americans. That's on WikiLeaks, not me. I think that this whole concept of patrimony and clientelism in East Africa is something that is going to be abolished by the generations that we have here, particularly the Gen Z. Thirdly, I think that it is critical for the media and newspapers and public intellectuals to really come out and focus on what the problem of leadership is in this region so that we can change these leaders and get leaders who can make us progress. Ayub, I put it to you that this is a Machiavellian relationship between the three presidents in this region, and the coming elections in this country and the general elections that are coming are going to determine which way we're going to go. Of
course, Uganda next year and Kenya the other. Yes. But Prof, ideally, is there a descendancy in the respect Kenya once commanded among the community of nations, and especially in this region, given our forays, what happened in the DRC, and Dr. has mentioned. Recently, there was a flight which had ferried Palestinians illegally from Gaza, and the stopover was in Nairobi before it landed in South Africa.
Very good.
In this context, and also what's happening with regards to Sudan and how hospitable we were to a group accused of genocide in Sudan, the RSF, is our once so revered respect foreign policy-wise on the descendancy?
Well, I know I have very good friends in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and some of them take me to task. Oh, Professor, why do you attack us? But this is not about me and you. This is about our country. And we have been in this affair for a long time. And that's why, actually, this republic took us to school, so that we can stand for it at the darkest hour. And this is a very dark hour in our foreign policy establishment. Why do I say so? we used to have a yo-yo kind of a foreign policy during the Cold War. Understandably, because we were vulnerable. We had come into independence. Hashi and his cousin declared war on us in 1962. So we
did not declare any war.
We literally woke up to war. I mean, Hashi,
very funny fellow.
So we are born to war. So we had to be very crafty in the 60s. I'm talking about shift war and survive. Then we came into the post-Cold War era. And Mzee Moi started by basically declaring that our ultimate goal is nationalism. And he wrote a book and went ahead. You may say so many things about Mzee Moi, but towards his final days, he was very clear about what Kenya is and where it needs to go. It is about our national interests and our nationalism. That was Mzee Moi. Kibaki came, and I was fortunate to be one of those who were called by him, and said, we want a written foreign policy so that we don't have this yo-yoing. And for the first time, we committed ourselves to write. What are the principles of this for our general understanding as a country? We said we are Kenyans first. It's our national interest. Second, we are Africans. And our interests will be defined by Africa. And third, we are part of humanity. Now, if you take that order, we defend our sovereignty first, and we defend our sovereignty by projecting ourselves in a dignified manner, not just behaving like merchants, that we sell anything and buy anything, that kind of a thing. A country is not a business enterprise. And that is a problem with our foreign policy. Because we have reduced the country, Republic of Kenya, into a Kenya incorporated. It is not, and that's why most of us are speaking the way we are speaking, because we know where we are supposed to go, we know what we need to happen, and even South Korea, Malaysia, none of those countries can really compete with us, given who we are as Kenyans. None of them has the capacity to compete with us, given our strategic position as a country. None can compete with us, given our hinterland that we can tap into. Look at the hinterland we can tap to, all the deep into Congo, deep into Central African Republic, south into whatever. God positioned us to be a major country. But what are we doing? We are turning our country into a company without shares. Now, and that is reflected very clearly in our foreign policy. Why are the Congolese uncomfortable with us? They are uncomfortable with us because we are not clear about what we are doing. We are not Africa-centered. Yeah. So they go to Angola to seek for reconciliation within their country when we are here. Why are the Sudanese, both sides, even the ones we said we are in line with them, they are not also so overly comfortable with us because we can, given the highest bidder, we can sell them as well. They know that. Now come to Eritrea. Yeah. It's the same. I mean, under Mzee Kibaki, Eritrea used to argue legitimately that we oversold ourselves to Ethiopia because our interests were very well served by Meles Zenawi. But we forgot that we are also a regional leader. So there, we went a little overkill. We need to come back. Yeah. Somalia. Somalia, we have been the custodian of the Somali peace from 2004. And we've done a great deal to take Somalia back. But again, our foreign policy, as it stands now, we started off well, but where are we? So, in short, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. And there's nothing wrong in doing that. We have done that with our China policy. We have done that. And we have angered Americans, but we started to gain. On that point, President Ruto is right. Because we will build our railway, we are going to build a highway, and we are going to build many other projects that we wanted to complete. So that's because that's our national interest. We also need to do the same with African policy. But to answer your question straight, we are completely off target.
Okay, I'll come to you. Senior Councillor?
Yeah, I think, I hope I'm not being too harsh on President Ruto. But I think our stand...
We can't be more harsh on President Ruto.
Our standing within the international community, our decline is on our free fall.
Yeah.
You know, Professor has mentioned our image under President Moi. You remember Moi used to tell the East African countries that Kenya is the island of peace.
Yeah.
You know?
In the perilous sea of trouble
Yes.
and the chaos.
Yes. I mean, now we have lost that moral authority. We cannot make that statement within the larger East African community. So that's how far we have declined. And then there is a problem in government. You have mentioned your friends in foreign affairs. But what people tell us is that what we're having in this country is a one-man show.
Absolutely.
It's one man
Correct.
called President Ruto who makes all the decisions. And he doesn't pay attention to any advice from professionals.
Correct.
You know, I'm keenly listening to the gentleman to my right, to my left, because I believe these are serious scholars. And when they speak, you listen and write and borrow some wisdom from them. But I understand that the president does not listen to anybody. In fact, is it you spoke about us converting this country into a merchant kind of company without shares? All these things you're reading about Southern Sudan and the decisions we make, you will find it tied either to some influence that country played in our elections, or some connection with some business interests within our country. And that's where we are totally getting it wrong. And all this is not in the best interest of the country. It is for the personal benefit and enrichment of some people at very high levels in government. That's where we are getting it wrong as a country. You know, when we talk about the interest of Kenya as a country, we should be seeing how do we tap the hinterland. Is it you mentioned the hinterland?
Yes.
The hinterland, how do we make our position as a country tap in from what we can get from the hinterland? Our railway can never be of any value to us unless it is serving the countries in the hinterland. I mean, that's where Ethiopia has beaten us, because it's connected, it's related to Djibouti, and opening up business in that corridor. In this country, what should be of concern to us is how do we make Museveni feel at ease and comfortable that Kenya is his best trading partner. If you are importing any commodity through Kenya, through the port, we should be able to transport it by railway all the way to Uganda. And that's the only way you can raise your stake. You know, some countries, their highest foreign earner is from what the two gentlemen are doing, academic. Students.
Human resource.
No, students. You know, you go to a country like Australia, you will get that the leading foreign earner is the foreign students who go to study in Australia. But there is no way we will hack it if we continue on this free fall in terms of our international image. So all this goes back, and I'm not saying this because I'm a politician, all this goes back to our captain, our president. Unless he gets it right, he's going to leave this country worse than he found it.
Quick one.
That is the brutal reality, and if he's watching this show, that this should be a wake-up call on him.
Again on that, because we need to clarify those, we have a problem here. Are we building a nation, or we are building wealth of individuals? Because political entrepreneurship is not what will make the country called Kenya great. You cannot turn Kenya into a political project, into an economic project for personal gain and fail to fight with your citizens. You even fight with your scholars, those who are supposed to be helping you in thinking. We wake up in the morning to make comments on you rather than helping you.
I have a specific question for you, Ahmed. Just I'm going to be joking. Yes, Doctor. You have to earlier than that, Prof.
I think Ayub.
Someone is after me.
So let me pre-announce that.
Ayub, from what Professor Kawanja and the Senior Council are saying, it's a cause for worry. Now, figuratively, if you have the map of Africa on a wall like behind me here, and you stand looking away from it, and you place your hand where your heart is, on the map of Africa, that is where Kenya is.
Yeah.
And literally, there is a way in which, if you look at our history in the 60s and the 70s and at least part of the 80s, when we were the heart of this continent, a great air transport hub, the only country in the global south where you have the headquarters of a UN agency, a country that had the highest number of educated people actually in this Great Lakes region, and including the Horn of Africa. Now we seem to be slightly moving away from that. I think there is need to begin to rethink Kenya. They talk about creating wealth. We don't. We are not creating wealth in the country. We are actually creating individual assets, which are mainly idle. Yeah. We are not creating institutions. We are creating individuals. Yes. We probably need to retrack and check where the rain started beating us.
Yeah, Ahmed, is there kinship in what somewhat today intellectuals like you guys are describing as deepening autocracy in the region?
When they were swearing in our president, Mr. Ruto, I said three things. Mr. Kagwanja was sitting right next to me. I said that he is going to ruin the economy. I said he's not going to bring the people together. I said that he was going to be a one-term president. That's where the opposition got the term. Nothing has ever been done without theory, as we know. I also believed that he was going to bring a chieftaincy, and I warned him against that. I said he was going to be a chief. You know, Frantz Fanon has written a chapter about it in The Pitfalls of National Consciousness, where everybody wants to put a big headdress, go to get a rungu and a fly whisk, and go around the country proclaiming roads, hospitals, calling himself a paramount chief. It's a very deeply African problem, which is hugely influenced by the colonial experience that we had, because they propped up all these chieftaincies. But that's to anticipate. I just think that autocracy is what they have chosen, because they cannot understand the post-colonial economy. They cannot understand the youth bubble. They don't understand international political economy. Forget about diplomacy. Of course, my learned friends all have pointed to it. Never have we ever been on the right side of history when it comes to diplomacy. From Charles Njonjo, the late Njonjo, who wanted to bring apartheid into Kenya. Literally wanted to bring apartheid into Kenya. He wanted to invite Pik Botha, the foreign minister. The government of this country led innocent people from Gaza who have been bombed by American planes and bombs and Israeli pilots to come into here, and in the dead of the night, they were slipped through, sent to Johannesburg, South Africa, and we in Kenya didn't even have the courtesy to call the South African foreign minister and tell him, listen, we have let go a plane. It has no number. It has no serial. We don't know where it has come from. But it stopped here, and we're taking it to South Africa. Beware. And it didn't happen. It just landed in South Africa. I am shocked that the South African government has not recalled its ambassador here in Nairobi. Because if I were the president of South Africa, I would recall my ambassador. Because that stop that was made here, we were aiding and abetting what Israel is doing, which is ethnic cleansing in Palestine. So that's a very critical thing for us to know. And it is done out of the auspices of this question that you have asked us about autocracy. Ms. Suluhu's government, you can see, predicted is going to be in big trouble in the next few months. Had an expose there on CNN. What was the response of the government of Tanzania? We are going to put Mr. What's his name, the journalist? Larry of Madowo, in jail for telling the truth. For just telling the truth. We know that the leader of the opposition here was picked up here in Nairobi. Kiza Bisiji. Yeah, in the middle of the road here. The barabara hapa Kilimani, karibu na Yaya Center. They then put him in a truck and sent him to a fridge in Uganda. President was in this country watching him, and he ticked, and said, let it happen. I think
the Turkish nationals.
Yes, Mr. Museveni is very fond of putting Kenyans on fridges. We got two activists here. I was afraid to go to Kampala because I know he's going to put me in a fridge. I have a family over there. So we are going to fight the late Honorable Robert Nesta Marley, perhaps the voice and icon of African freedom. Said, you know, we're going to chase these crazy ballheads out of town. And one of the most important things that we need to do is to get the younger, politicize the younger people, talk to the younger people, get our political parties working, get the intellectuals to speak, to write, so that we stand up for decent, basic freedoms of our peoples in this region.
Yeah, and Prof, coming to you, in your op-ed, you have titled this, without an assertive Indo-Pacific strategy, many risks await Kenya. You have talked about what's at our disposal, and that Kenya has an estimated potential to produce between 150,000 to 300 metric tons of fish per year. Externally, Nairobi has to develop a nuanced foreign policy driven by the imperatives of an effective Indo-Pacific strategy, and this was against the backdrop of the summit which happened in France. And what's happening, including shifting foreign policies, NATO, you wrote about Japan, the United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany, the Netherlands, the European Union, and organizations such as the ASEAN, who have cobbled up for their own Indo-Pacific strategies. There's talk about the shift to first world status by the president, so ambitious about it. Ideally, how can this be tapped? Because what's our disposal needs just the visionary leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, and also having your pieces together. My son used to dismantle his cars whenever I buy them.
You mean the toy cars?
Yes, toy cars, yes. Yeah, I just buy, he's a small young boy.
Yeah.
So he dismantled them, and I just thought, I need to change the mindset of this person. So I did not go to buy a car, I bought parts, okay? I bought parts, and now dumped them there. And the fellow, those in the house, helped him to put a car up together. Today, he's looking at it because he knows if he tamper with it, it will break.
Yeah.
Now, and he has to call the others to assemble it. Knowing what piece to put where is the beginning, and doing the delicate business of creating a nation, and a serious nation like this one is what we need. It's not waking up in the morning and pronouncing that we are going to be wishful thinking.
First world.
We are going to be first world, we are going to be this. In the first place,
Malaysia.
It is never our ambition as a country to be first world because we can't. Because we don't have the territory. Russia has, America has.
China has.
That's why Kwame Nkrumah did not imagine, because he was the first independent person, that Ghana is going to be a first world. What he dreamed was the United States of Africa. So Africa United will now be larger than the Soviet Republic, the United States, and we can now compete as the third force. That was Nkrumah's thinking. Superb. Now, when you think that Kenya is going to be a third world, then you must, a first world, you now must move very quickly and endear Kenya as the leader of Africa, so that you are the leader of the United States of Africa. That's it. That's where Museveni started off very well, by basically prioritizing East Africa as the big thing. And give it to him. He has pushed us to the point that we have now an anthem we sing for the East Africans. We have a common passport, which we carry. We can move around as East Africans, and we are moving, despite his growing old. And there are other younger people who are going to come up and replace him. The big point is that we can become larger than Malaysia. We can become larger than South Korea, because we have more advantage than them in any way you want to envisage. But we have to put our ducks in a row. First, human resource. We have to put our ablest and our best in positions of authority. The moment a file is taken to National Assembly and Justin Mutuli says it is missing some papers and it is returned to State House, and then State House calls and say, consider that file as it is an shame to us. You know, a file comes to Museveni, Wakiri, that, and he says, with his education, that this file is missing papers. We don't have standard 4. We don't have the CPE certificate. We have no Form 4 certificate. We have no university degree. So can we have all those put together and a CV? Then say, consider the file as it is. You are taking an empty file to the National Assembly for somebody to be appointed a cabinet minister. Shame on us. Shame on us as a people. So how can we get to the first world for crying around?
You can't.
If you are taking empty files to the National Assembly for these ladies and gentlemen to consider it and hire people who have no papers, and you are pushing it yourself through your phone calls, shame on us. You appoint our ambassador or our consul to the most bureaucratic and the most strategic part for this republic, which is Eastern Congo. Eastern Congo, or Congo generally, is very strategic to us. We are not a mineral nation, but we are a nation next to minerals. So when you send your consul, he's going to come up with the policies with those governments, and will be able to enable you to tap into those minerals legitimately. Then you take a person who was a petrol station vendor. Attendant in some place. We are not degrading Kenyans. But also don't abuse Kenyan fathers and mothers who sold their land so that they can educate their kids. No. We are not talking about history. We are talking about in the last 5 years. So how can we become a first world?
And you're relating to Speaker Muturi's book when he was the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Yes, and he told me the story before.
Should I name the cabinet minister?
That's all right.
No, it's in the book.
So it's in the book anyway.
And you know,
public can read
Malava here, you know, Mr. Mudavadi, who is our foreign minister, has made the aspirants for the UDA, they've been given papers to go as trade representative in the South Africa, one here in Uganda. Absolutely zero experience.
In a political rally.
Yeah, he gave them the papers. It is, now, you see, Ayub, I think that there's a word called contradiction, which is a blasphemy. It tries to wrap things around without an explanation. There is no contradiction. It's very clear that we elected a president who is running down the country backwards and turning the clock back. And you know, we as Kenyans, I've been preaching this idea that we need a peaceful transfer of power. We need to wait for the elections, and I stand by that because I think we need to make this president an example to all the other presidents who are going to come to this country. But many of them might be sitting here. I can see our politicians who have certain ambitions, who want to also sit on that seat. I might be the first Somali president in this country. I'm still young. Therefore, I think that the most important thing is for us to make sure that today we put up the barricades so that no other president will ever come to this country and do the nonsense that our president has been doing in the last 3 years. And we are waiting for this general election so we can just turn the corner and move on this country because we're in big, big trouble.
Yes, Dr. your hand was up.
Yes. On a light note, Prof, even if it was 5 years ago, that is still historical, only that we call it contemporary history. I'm sure. I teach philosophy of history, and my students will be very jittery if they hear me sitting in a table where we are saying 5 years ago is not historical. But away from that, Hashi said earlier about African leaders acquiring some level of symbolism that you know, makes them look like paramount chiefs. I really have no problem with that. If you carry your regalia around and deliver for the country in tandem with the national interest of our country, at least if we had one, we don't seem to have one exactly at the moment, it would be good. And, you know, nobody has a problem with, you know, the way the president and his ministers are operating, especially on the way they have dealt with this East-West dichotomy through positive engagement. They go east, they go west, depending on what works for us. That's wonderful. But what I have a problem with is the merchant mentality with which we are increasingly doing things. If we can find a way of ameliorating that, remedying that, probably it might be helpful for this nation.
Correct.
Number two, it's great to have dreams. And I can hear my friend Hashi is also having a dream.
A long-time politician, and you know that.
I know that. We have worked together in some very political quarters.
Yes.
You know, it's great to have dreams. As Anyang Nyong'o's daughter said one time, all dreams are valid.
Valid. Please add your cousin to that dream bucket. He's in it too.
National dreams
are
supposed to be, you know, have an important national dimension.
True.
You know, and some level of goodwill. The comparison we do in this country between the so-called Asian tigers and Africa
really
is just that, distorted. Because we are dealing with countries that have different historical realities different cultural disposition that drive them towards a certain direction. As I agree with what Professor Kawanja says, that if we were doing things right, we have more advantages to move fast forward or to match ourselves in terms of development than those Asian tigers. But the historical comparison that we do is actually distorted. Those countries have their own unique histories and cultural dispositions that make them what they are comparative to who we are as African countries. You know. But if we looked at our own context and harnessed what we have, we are the richest continent in this world. In all aspects of that word, rich in terms of population, rich in terms of natural resources, rich in terms of talent. The only challenge we have had, and this one I agree with the legendary Genoa Jebe of Nigeria, is actually leadership.
Very true.
Even these Asian tigers we are talking about, there will be no Singapore today without Lee Kuan Yew. There will be no Malaysia today without Mahathir. And I owe it to Mahathir Mohamad. I did my PhD in Cambridge as a Malaysian Commonwealth scholar out of funding that comes from Malaysia and donated to the University of Cambridge. So I owe it to him. There are three things that we have to do right in our continent and in our country in order to move forward and move faster. One is leadership, two is leadership, and three is leadership. Period.
And Chinua Achebe said in that regard that everything rises and falls with leadership. Senior Counsel, what Prof pointed out was in relation to Speaker Muturi, and ideally a very critical institution in our constitutional architecture, which is Parliament, and the many other safeguards that Katiba places for our democracy to grow. Ideally, then, what's the place of institutions for this great ambition that the President has? Of course, there are loopholes, given the conduct and the integrity, the degree with which incompetency is awarded at the expense of political expediency. But how critical are our constitutional institutions in getting us forward?
In fact, let me begin by thanking Kenyans who approved this constitution in a referendum. Because at least when I come to a show in Citizen, we debate, you listen to us, you know. You don't switch off our microphone when we say some things that you think will make the president very uncomfortable.
True.
I mean, it's sad that at times in an institution called Parliament, you can find somebody occupying the chair of Speaker who gets very uncomfortable when you are telling the president the truth. You know, it's like there are things that you should never say to the king. But, you know, I agree with my friends here that what the president is saying is, you know, is like you are giving a lecture to students, but the roadmap to where you are taking us, the practical aspects are not on the table. And I agree that everything begins with leadership. And if you want to reach the status of a good country, the way you have asked me, institutions play a very key role. If you have a country where parliament, a democratic parliament, cannot undertake its constitutional mandate of vetting and approving a presidential nominee. Because our constitution, we call it in law, this is a constitution that gives government limited powers. It's a limited government, meaning how far you can go as a government or as a president is limited by what is in this constitution.
By the law.
By the law. Meaning you can nominate a cabinet minister, yes. But there is a limit that you cannot pick a roguish Kenyan who is not qualified and impose him in an office. That's why your power is limited. You can nominate an ambassador, but again, the constitution limits how far you can go and tells you you must operate within these confines. And then it tells you if you go overboard, in fact, you can be sent home. You can be impeached by the same parliament, and that is it. So when you have strong institutions, it's an indicator that you are heading on the right direction. Our Ethics and Corruption Commission, look at the rate at which money is moving around in these by-elections. Have you seen anybody culpable or anybody being, or even an investigation being done? None. Yesterday, we officially, the other day, the campaign period came to an end.
6 p.m. Monday.
Yes. Yesterday, people are still campaigning and giving money and clips moving around. Nothing is being done. We have made it now even more worse that even people who seek to be appointed in a merit-based process, who apply for positions through Public Service Commission, we still get a list being sent by people in the State House saying, these are the people we want. So it just becomes an issue of ticking boxes. So if our institutions are not strong, we never get it right. Do you know where we are now in terms of international law? We're having what we call post-presidential prosecutions. Where is the president of France? Sarkozy. South Korea. Yeah? Post-presidential prosecutions, where people who leave office get prosecuted because we want to send a message that nobody is above the law and that institutions are there to ensure that the law is followed and those who breach the law will face consequences. But the culture we are building in this country is to give an impression that there are people who are untouchable. That if you get appointed to a cabinet position and you are perceived to be very close to the president, you can get away with murder. You can engage in economic saboteur.
Absolutely.
And nobody will ever come after you. You can plunder public resources, create an economic empire for yourself at the expense of the people, and nothing happens. Then finally, let the president understand where the world is moving to. You know, this thing of telling us you want to make us a first world, the scholars here will tell you that we have even come up with another theory now, pushed by the Bhutan Republic, which we call gross domestic happiness. We don't care about this rhetoric you are telling us about building houses and infrastructure. The measure is, are your people happy, even psychologically? When Kenyans wake up in the morning, are they happy or you are making them live stressful life? The environment. Don't tell us about the dream to build a highway. The environment we live in. When you wake up, Abdikadir, and you walk in the street of Nairobi, how is the environment? Has even the garbage been collected? Do you feel happy? How is the situation of our roads? The potholes. Don't talk about the highway. How are our potholes? Have you fixed them? No. How is your security? You. How is a youth who has just graduated from university? Is that youth hopeful? Do they have hope that they will walk into an office and get a job? No, you know, you need to do those things, and those answers should come to us from the president. If you fix, gross national happiness. Can I just join that? If you fix that, and when you talk to us, the man in the street, if you talk to us and we tell you, when you measure gross domestic happiness, we're happy. Then you can tell us that you are taking us toward becoming a first world country. So what I'm challenging the president to do is fix our problems today, not tomorrow. Then we have a scorecard on your presidency after 5 years.
Correct. My learned friend is correct.
Are you happy, Ahmed?
I'm not happy. You can tell that I'm not happy. Do you know there's actually a concrete example in Bhutan, in Asia, near Nepal, where there's the Ministry of Happiness. I am not kidding. There is a whole minister who is in charge of the happiness of the country.
But happiness is the ambition of the Americans.
Yeah, so the thing is, I agree with all my panelists, and I think that, the native believes the worst of himself. That's Fanon. He believes, that everything is conspiring against him. And therefore, the ability of our people in this country, not only to get happiness, but to breathe, where, happiness is in the horizon for us. What we're looking for now is to breathe. Yeah. And this country is not breathing.
Yes.
It's very difficult for us to breathe because we wake up, as my learned friend has said there, every morning we wake up with another astonishing confusion that has been made worse, confounded. And the people of this country, very basic things. If you wake up in the morning, you'll see the whole massive of the unemployment walking down Bagati Road. People who wake up late, who have breakfast and have houses. The little tiny middle class that we have don't see it because we're in the traffic jam at 9. They don't see the young women coming from Kibra who are looking for daily work for maybe 100 or 200 shillings. The middle class doesn't have money to go to the shops. If you've been to the malls recently and if you've been to the shopping places, you'll be shocked. My own mother, who is the great determinator for me about the economic situation in this country, keeps asking me, son, can you tell our leader that something is wrong? Because she believes I have direct access to her president. The Mamamboga, remember the Mamamboga? Yeah. That was the basic central political tenet of the president. Before I give it to my learned friend on the right there, the Mamamboga is suffering. Yeah. The shopkeeper is suffering. There is no money that's circulating. The allegations in this town, in the commercial banks from tellers, is that there's some people's accounts are just overflowing, while the rest of poor Kenyans are starving. It is time for us to breathe, and that breathing is going to be brought by the fire of the Gen Zs. I give it to Daktari.
Thank you. Talk about happiness, or what Senior Council is called...
You seem happy.
Instead of gross national product, we are now talking about the gross national happiness.
Yes.
If you remember, in 2003, after 24 years of the Moi administration, and then we have the elections, and then in 2003, a survey was done, and Kenyans were found to be the happiest people in the world. If you remember that. That's a time when, for the first time in the history of this country, we saw citizen arrest of the police officers. Yeah. We saw people reporting. We saw Kenyans willing to walk so that we have order in our matatu industry. Probably that is what we need.
The great Mishuki.
That's what we need. Number two, we also need to be worried. We can become fatalistic as a people and as a country. I like what Senior Counsel said earlier about this constitution, the green and white small book in front of him. It takes me back to history in the 1970s. The legendary maverick politician Martin Joseph Sukuku stands in the August House and declares that Kanu is dead. And one member asked him to substantiate. And the acting speaker,
Jean-Marie Sorenay,
says, why do you want him to substantiate
the obvious? Great man.
He actually did not go to his house. He ended up in some fridge to use Museveni's concept somewhere.
Great
that
man.
Cannot happen today. I'm very sure that Watengula and his counterpart, King in the Senate, they are very comfortable whatever submissions are done on the floor. And I think we need also to appreciate that we have made some steps. However childish those steps are, we have made some steps. Even our president, the other day when he was speaking in Al Jazeera, he confirmed that he's not going to get 97% in this country, given the level of political awareness that we have. That is something that we need to appreciate as a people and as a nation. But there is more that needs to be done.
Thank you. Let's sample the feedback here on the broadcast. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. MC_Ruma says Museveni's push for an Indian Ocean corridor is economical and geopolitical, not territorial. But if he's hinting at taking Kenyan land, that's provocation. Full stop. Idi Amin, try that play before history does remember. Okay. Next is African Pundit. Museveni is simply playing 2026 poll politics, fundamentally using a nationalism card for rallying Ugandans together behind him, having been given a tough campaign by his lead opponent. Sir Nixon Dugure says, my fear now is through the Kenyan Privatization Act of 2025, the government might give Uganda access to a private road all the way from Uganda to a section of Kenya's coastline, which shall be privately owned by Uganda as well. Good luck says Uganda and Kenya have had cordial relations, mostly bilateral, for many years. What is the connection between President Museveni's claims about the Indian Ocean and the reported sale and assurance of extending the Kenya pipeline? It is just a coincidence. Engineer Lazaro says the tribulations in Tanzania are forcing Museveni to return to reliable route here in Kenya. Parliament should step in and demand an apology from Uganda before granting them permission to access the seaport. Our sovereignty, he says, must be respected at all costs. Ahmed, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayuba. Delighted
Senior
to be
Counsel,
here.
thank you. And Daktari, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Many thanks.
Well done.
Asante.
We are a minute just at the top, before the top of the hour, and many thanks for your time and your input here. Up next is Health and Lifestyle with Safin Achieng Oma, and I'll see you tonight at 9 p.m. on a special coverage of the by-elections, the eve before a polling day across all the electoral units where the IEBC will be first tested in the country. Our team will be on standby for that, and of course across the day, with starting with our Swahili broadcast from 10 a.m. here on Citizen Television. Good morning and thanks.
Great show.